Today we're covering the topic of catalog management, and we're going to cover information around about how our object model works, how it's very flexible, and how we use it to support showing product attributes. We actually also will show forms at this time because forms use exactly the same concept of where we have attributes associated with products, and except that they're variable in the UI. We're going to go and look at some of the administration of those types of attributes, and then we're going to go and show you information about a typical input format that we use to create this particular product data information in the system, and then we'll start to discuss some operational issues around about how we do daily updates and how we automate the loading of catalogs, and then we'll discuss very briefly how we can actually look at a particular product and be able to release it, change it outside of the normal process. So the first thing we're going to look at is a product, and we're going to go first and just clean up our cart, and I'm going to delete those items. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is look at a laptop, because this is a good example of the use of our data model. We're going to filter down here. You can see here product attributes can be used to actually filter the results of search. Okay, and those things become a filter at the top. But before we go there, we're just going to look at and filter on our Lenovo catalogs, and we're going to look at this particular Lenovo catalog product. So you can see here we support multiple images associated with it. We've got descriptions. Our system is completely multilingual, so you can have within a single catalog load multiple languages. You can see further documents. We can link to associated documents, but here is the important area in the middle here. So these are product attributes. Here's the carry case. That is the attribute, and the value is no carry case. The default warranty is the attribute, and it's a 3-year warranty. This is organized into sections and attributes within the sections. We have the tools to be able to order the sections on the page and order the attributes within the sections, and they even change the number of columns per page. Okay, so these are the product attributes associated with a product. The important thing here is the clue to how we do it. So we can associate with a product multiple what we call classification groups. And so within the classification product attributes, we have associated with the product with this group IT attributes. And then we have associated all of these attributes with the group IT attributes. You can see also that we support multiple categories. We've got the category structure that's on the front page that we use to go and do guided buying, and then of course a UNSPSC code. Now the second part of what we're showing you today here is the concept of related products. So now we have related products associated with the main product. So here we're going to have some examples of we want to add a 4-year support. We want to upgrade our processor. We want to upgrade potentially our memory. And we want to get some accessories. So here we've got some adapters, a carry case, and a keyboard. And when we add that to the cart, this shows us the concept of kits. So here we have a kit with all the items that I have selected from that page. And that kit works as a group. So if I change it, and as the school, I want to change it from 1 to 5 items, you can see here that everything is proportional to that master item. So we've shown you here a product and all the attributes associated with it. We've showed related products and how those related products can construct a kit for the thing. So I'm going to delete this item and now go on to our next topic. Our next topic is forms. Now, forms are very, very similar to the way that we do attributes on products. So in this case here, I am going to order a contractor. And so this is our form. It is a product, but we've opened up the ability to edit some of the core information on the product. So I'm just going to want a developer. And I'm going to want it for 20 days. So I'm going to have 20 days at $1,500 a day. And I'm going to change my unit of measure to be days. So I'm filling out a form and 1 month. Okay, and I can put a scope of work in there, what I want to do there. Here now is my form, and so associated with this area called form, an IT consultant form, I can go ahead and I can fill information. Now, this could be a new contract, and I have to fill out all this information, like, for instance, the start and the end dates. Or it could be, in fact, an extension of a particular position, or it could be the termination, etc. And you can see how the look and the UI changes on here based on the type of information. And how that is done is that we actually have a set of rules that we can associate it with the filling out of a form. So if I want to add a setting here, you can see I've got a couple of series of rules that I can. I can show and hide attributes. I can make them mandatory. I can go and exit to an external system. I can create an expression. I can copy things. So I can actually make this form quite comprehensive and adaptable depending on that. Another example might be if I'm wanting to hire different types of skills, I could have different fields for different skills displayed on the screen. But again, you can see it is a product and it is associated with UNSPSC and browse categories, as we saw before, but also with this concept of IT consultant. And that is what we call a classification group. And what we're going to do now is go into the system, administration of the system, and actually look at the details of how we do this. And so there we will go into the administration and look at classifications. And here you can see we have a library of classifications. And here are the ones you saw on there. So let's look at a couple of areas. So in terms of IT attributes, we created our structure for Acme where we can create different types of attributes. So here, when we've got this thing here, you can see here are all of the IT attributes and how they're created and associated with it. You remember we talked about Fisher Scientific. Here are all the attributes that we use to support the Fisher Scientific library. And an attribute, is quite sophisticated in the sense that it has, a lot of information associated with it. It is an attribute library. And you can see here that we can have multi-language support. We can bring in all sorts of different types of attributes. If we wanted to, in fact, create a new attribute, you could see that we can actually have booleans, dates, integers, numeric strings, and all sorts of types of attributes, and that we can create associated with them their value lists, how they're presented on the screen, etc. So a very powerful thing. So this attribute library is not only associated to products, it can be associated with any objects like the supplier, the customer, the catalog, the contract, etc. So that we use attributes, with the requisition, we use attributes to extend our already comprehensive data model. Okay, so you've got the concept of products and attributes, and so everything is data driven. We don't create a form unlike others that are associated with, that are as a separate application and there's a GUI thing that writes it. This is all data driven, and you can modify a form at any point in time, add, remove, change the attributes so that there is all the flexibility in the world. We manage a form is actually this attributes associated with a classification group, and then we associate that group with any number of products, so that when you're actually looking for a form, you are looking for products, and that's very, very different than the way other people do it. There's a couple of things that I want to talk to next. Input formats. Okay, so we support the concept of multiple tabbed Excel spreadsheets. We can have tabs for products, prices, classification structures, attributes, and product relations. Here we're using a products and product relations thing. So essentially, we can map any one of these headings into our data model with a simple configuration file. And so what we're looking at here is how we pull all this data into the system. Each one of these items here are mapped to different product attributes. And so we can bring in tremendous amounts of data into the system. And then we can then relate products with other products using the product relations tab. And so you can see here that we have the part number and the related part number. What is the type of relationship that we have and how we're organizing it, and how they're organized in terms of day on the day, display on the page, the quantity, etc. So we have incredibly flexible input formats. Of course, we use a lot of Excel, but we can support all sorts of other formats, XML formats like BMECAT, CIF formats, CSV formats, etc. So we're the catalog management process is extremely flexible, and we can do lots of things in terms of being able to, as we process the catalog, enrich that catalog from other data sources. The next thing we're just going to talk about in general, one of the questions that was asked was related to how do we do incremental updates and things like that. So we have not only a UI in which we can load the data into the system, and I'm not going to show you that here, but we also have a hot folder concept. And this hot folder concept is where we allow the suppliers to FTP us updates, and they can be daily, hourly, monthly, whatever, and they get automatically swept into the system, and we can configure them to be updated automatically within the system. But if there is also the situation where we do have a simple update to be done during the day, we can go ahead into our catalog portal. And I'm just going to actually look at that Lenovo environment. Excuse my typing. And I'm just going to go to a place where I can see the data. I'm going to go here, and I'm going to look at our product review thing. And so when we load a catalog, we in fact we store every version of that catalog in the system, and we can actually go ahead and make updates on that product at any time and republish it into the system. So here you can see the details of the product, the price information, the classification associations we saw, the attributes associated with the products, and the product relations. And we can actually update any one of these items at any time and make an update and then republish the catalog. So that's how we can do changes that are outside the normal review and approval process at any time. So as a recap, we've gone and talked about our product data model, how flexible it is, how we create attributes so that we associate with the product, and that these attributes can be specific. The set of attributes associated with any product are very dependent on the group, the classification group that's associated with it. And so that allows us to create, good product details. And we've talked about product relationships so that we can create kits. We talked about forms, and about forms are similarly made by associating through a classification group attributes with the product, but in this case, they're editable. We then looked at how we can actually do rules around the forms so that we can actually change the nature of the form. In other words, I call these conditional forms, but they're basically business rules within the form. And then I showed you a little bit about how we can administer these attributes, and I discussed how important it was that it is flexible and it's all driven by data and it can be updated at any time. We don't have to create a new form and republish it. Then we just talked about the input formats, and we showed you an example of an input format and how flexible that can be. We then talked about some of the day-to-day operations about how we load catalogs and then how we can update them at any point in time. Thank you very much.